Welcome back. There's a fourth candidate running in the St. Louis mayor's race, and there is an upcoming primary that, in approval voting, could open up some doors that we haven't seen before, potentially. Joining us now is Andrew Jones, running for mayor of St. Louis. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
You have run for mayor a couple times before. You've run for Congress before, and it hasn't always been nonpartisan approval voting. You've been a Republican running in a very Democratic city. What has that been like so far for you, that process?
Well, it's been somewhat hectic. It's somewhat disappointing because of the nonpartisan positions. We certainly get left out of a lot of different things, even though they say it's nonpartisan, and it's kind of skewed to the left, but we certainly won't deter anything, let that deter us whatsoever. We're bulldogging after this particular race.
You don't deny that you bring conservative ideas to the table.
Certainly.
That's part of who you are.
Certainly.
But in this city, you see the election results. In November, 82% of the city voted for a Democrat for governor or a Democrat for president. How do you appeal to those voters?
Well, we appeal to them because our message resonates. Certainly when you look at it, you don't look at it and say, well, it's a conservative message that ostracizes anyone. It's a conservative message that displaces people. It's a message that improves people. It's a message that invites people in, and it's a winning message. It's a message that absolutely is about thinking things through so we can be successful.
I guess my question could be, when you approach these voters or encounter these voters in the public and community meetings, do you try to persuade them to change their minds, or is there somewhere where you already have common ground?
Well, we have common ground on success. We're talking about success and what it means to be successful because the great need is change. It's real change that is needed, and people embrace change, and they see the difference between myself and the other three that are running is that they talk about change. They've been involved with everything, but they have been also a part of the problem with the city of St. Louis, and there hasn't been any success. We're talking about bringing in change that actually works.
Voters might like the words change or success.
Yes.
But then we get more specific.
Yes.
What does that look like?
What it looks like is that you turn around the crime, the safety issues that are plaguing our particular city. We certainly know that people are saying that crime is down, but it certainly doesn't feel that way. Certainly seems like people may have manipulated numbers. We're submitting that we should do that. Feels.
What gives you that feeling?
The feeling is that when you look at Chicago, you look at New York, they have also manipulated those numbers and finally have been caught relative to what has happened with those numbers. And we're saying that if right now, if you're reporting crimes and the crimes there are 4 crimes in one particular area, and they used to count those as 4 crimes, and now you're counting those as 1 crime, that is manipulating numbers.
You're suggesting, so if one vandal,
yes,
one criminal,
yes,
hits 4 different windows in a parking lot,
yes,
you think that should be 4 crimes reported as 4 incidents and not just 1 incident of crime?
Because it's 4 different opportunities.
Right. And in a court of law, that would be 4 different charges because there are 4 different victims.
Correct.
But in reality, that was 1 person committing 1 act of crime in 1 targeted area.
But historically, if you are committing those crimes, and that has been the historical way of announcing those and positioning those, it is a crime.
Do you know which category of crime that massaging of the numbers would not apply to?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but
murder.
Well,
if you have 1 body, you have 1 body.
You have 1 body, but also if you have multiple bodies, sometimes depends on if the person shoots 1 person here, runs down the street, and shoots another person down the street.
They still count those as separate homicides.
They'll count those as second.
Not one homicide.
That's not 1 homicide. But certainly if they go and commit it somewhere else where there's personal issues, things of that nature, they count those as 2.
And homicides are down. And you don't dispute that.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know if they're down. I'm questioning the numbers. No, the police, I'm submitting that the police are submitting numbers and information that is point exact on how things are going, but certainly the police have been somewhat deterred by and led by the mayor.
The chief was on this program last week, and
yes,
he responded to allegations from Republicans in Jefferson City who said that this mayor is tying his hands. He said that's false, that's not true. I asked him specifically, is there anything you'd like to do that you can't do because you report to this mayor? He said no. She's given me autonomy. wide latitude. Are you telling me you have reason not to believe him?
I'm somewhat suspicious because the numbers that come in from the state in their assessment of Fraternal Order of Police, those police union associations, they have diametrically different numbers. So it leads to one to question it.
Well, if they're sharing those numbers with you, I haven't seen them.
Yes.
I've heard some of the lobbyists who represent those unions make claims. I have not seen them provide numbers. Are they giving you numbers?
Well, I'm getting numbers from them because they support me in my position for running for mayor. And
The police unions are endorsing you?
they have not endorsed me yet, but they support me in providing information for me.
Okay, so let's talk about how. Because right now, our discussion so far has been around defining a problem.
Yes.
You feel there's a problem in data that we can't quite trust. You feel, but how are you going to fix that?
Fix the problem, or
How are you
are
going
we
to
going
fix all
to
of it?
find
How
a
are you going to
data?
make the city safer? How are you going to make the data reliable?
Well, first of all, we'll be transparent and we'll certainly provide those informations where they won't be questioned. It's absolutely simple to say that if you have a particular issue, that you go for those issues and you provide that information, and we can live with the information that is a negative information.
Well, before we get ahead of ourselves,
Yes.
You might have control of the police department if
Yes.
you win the mayor's job, unless the state takes control of the police department away from the mayor. Do you support the state takeover of the police department?
At this particular point in time, it has been so bad that I'm submitting that we probably have to.
Even if you were the mayor, you would still
If
support
now that
state
is
takeover?
that is certainly something that we would have to take into consideration, but I'm
So
submitting
the voters
that
should have a say.
the voters should have a say, but we're also saying that the conditions also dictate what we should do. And if the crime is at a level where we can't sustain what's going on at this particular point in time, we have to do something about it because it's critical in order to do anything like economic development and business development.
So if the city continues to grow safer, and
Yes.
continues to see a decline in homicides, continues to see a decline in aggravated assaults, then you would say that's a metric that supports leaving the police department under local control.
I'm saying that is something to be highly considered.
That's happening now.
I'm not exactly sure.
You don't believe that?
No,
Okay.
I do not.
So let's talk about other departments of the city. You mentioned policing. It sounds like you want to do. Can you give me something more specific other than current system is bad? What would you bring to the table?
As far as policing?
Yes.
For policing, we're certainly looking at your lead, and we're saying that a issue and a civilization, everything is led by the person that's in charge. And we're saying
What does that mean?
What it means is that what we have is that a fish rots from the head down. It rots from the head down. That means leadership at the top being able to dictate exactly what's going on so that we can reach those particular goals.
I think voters want to know what that means, though. So, okay, you're at the top. Now what?
Now we're at the top and we dictate. We have high-performing policing, and we are absolutely behind them 100%, but we also will hold them accountable for the things that they don't do, because we have to get the fundamental culture together in order to move things forward.
You're talking in big, vague words, if I can say so.
Yes, sir.
I'm not hearing any specifics.
Well, because when we dig down into specifics, we move away from what we're trying to do. Because I'm submitting to you that most people don't grasp that it's a cultural thing that boasts leadership. Leadership, I can come and say that we can do cure police, or what is the name of the
referring to
order?
cure violence?
Cure violence. All of those things we can do with James Watson's.
You're talking about some nonprofit groups that try to interrupt
supplement. We're
violence
talking
and-
about
yeah.
community policing. We're talking about all of those ancillary types of things that will supplement police, but you can't move away from the police itself. And we're saying the very easy supply for this thing to be changed is that we get involved with increasing the number of police by increasing morale, having someone that the police believe in, and those aren't quantitative things, those are qualitative things, but those are the things that move.
You worked in business for much of your
Yes.
career. We've seen some people with a business background go into government and succeed, frankly. We've seen some people go into government from a business background and fail spectacularly. What skills did you acquire in business that you think directly translate into this particular job? Because it is an executive position, the executive branch of the city. What skills did you learn in the business background that you think, you know what, I can use that here and here's how?
Easy. What we have is that once we move beyond the policing, we can open the doors up for economic development. I've led economic development departments for over 20 years. We've had success in those cities of all throughout Southern Illinois. And one thing that I initially said that should be done for the city of St. Louis is that we have a comprehensive economic development plan. They used to call me the plan man because I always discussed those plans, SWOT analysis, Gini coefficients, to do the analysis so we can get buy-in from all stakeholders within the city of St. Louis so that we can turn things around, and we'll have exact information on where we need to be, who's responsible, who's in charge, and we can dictate what happens during that particular time. But we don't have that now, and we haven't had it, and that's what holds us back.
One of the ways that the public can monitor and track the progress or the popularity of any particular candidate is in the campaign finance filings to see who's with you. Do you I haven't seen much in the way of fundraising or donors lining up behind your campaign. If you're pitching yourself to the public as a big economic development guy, would it stand to reason that some of the business community or the economic development community would also be supporting your campaign? Why aren't they?
Well, the reason that they're not supporting our candidate, this candidate, is because of the designation of Republican. We know that it's, again, significantly
it's a taboo word.
It's a taboo word, and it absolutely deters people from going for us. But we're saying that things are resonating with people. People are listening, and they have to be made more aware of who I am, and we can move from that particular point in time because I'm driven by the need to get things done, have supported my campaign financially itself each time I've run.
Well, it is a Democratic city, and so maybe Democratic voters are, by and large, wary of a Republican who they feel may not agree with their political preferences. So maybe you can help us define it a little further. What kind of Republican are you?
Well, I would say that I'm a conservative. Nothing else, I believe, needs to be distinguished at that particular point in time, other than you can say that, did I vote for Donald Trump? Yes, I did. I voted for Donald Trump because we had two different options, and I voted for who I thought was the stronger candidate at that particular point in time. But that doesn't negate the fact that I have been involved with the city of St. Louis. I've been involved with the helping young people as far as coaching, being involved with Cardinal Ritter, East St. Louis Senior High School, Sumner High School. When their football team was up, I was also involved with CBC. I've done all types of things to show that I really mean that I am a community person, that I love the city of St. Louis and all of those particular things, and those don't register with a lot of people.
How do you think the Trump administration has impacted St. Louis so far? And I'll specifically underscore the threat of the federal funds freeze to any number of ongoing projects and programs. What has been his impact locally so far?
Well, I don't know what his impact is locally other than the fact that he's made these announcements. We know that there are some freezes that can't be assessed, but I'm submitting that when I get involved with the city of St. Louis as the mayor, that we will open up doors to have monies so that we won't have to have a slow turnaround, that we can have a fast turnaround to get money so that we can build up our police, we can build up our homeless associations, things of that nature, to get money to associate, to help with them, and do everything in economics to be able to drive economics to the city of St. Louis.
Part of the executive order from the White House that threatened to cut off or freeze federal funds pertained to scrubbing, searching for any references to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we've seen the Trump White House go through and look for a number of different words or terms in a number of different agencies trying to weed some of these things out. What's your take on that effort, on the conservative effort right now to silence, squash, or remove references to or conversations about diversity or about equity or about inclusion in our society?
Well, certainly I believe as a black man that we have to include everyone, but I'm submitting that the diversity and equity are about your mental state, your capacity to bring things of value to a particular system. And if you're talking about equity for equity's sake, I'm saying that that is certainly, I would say, tantamount to possibly being somewhat evil. It would be evil because if you are now bringing people in who are not qualified to do a particular job and to assist and to help, you are devastating the whole process altogether. But I'm saying you look at the process of whether or not someone has all of the equipment necessary to move a project forward. They should be included in just about everything that we do.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like two different sides of America that have two different definitions for DEI.
Yes.
You know, you're painting a picture of somebody who may not be qualified, but they're moved to the front of the line and promoted over somebody else who had higher qualifications simply because of a racial makeup. I haven't seen that happen. Maybe there's evidence of it. I talked to a daycare provider in North City just last week who said, well, equity for us means that a kid from a poor home who's living in poverty, that we provide lunch to that kid because that kid's family couldn't afford to pay for their lunch. So if we're removing equity, are we not feeding that poor kid? Do you see the different definitions?
No, I really don't see the different definitions, because you're looking at trying to have equality of outcomes, and you can't. No, nature doesn't provide equality of outcomes.
No kid deserves to have a subpar education simply because they were born into poverty.
But we are not promoting that. We've jumped now from business or being productive as a citizen down to children. Children, there should be no division whatsoever. We provide school lunches. As a matter of fact, our educational system, our public schools are flush with money. Money is not the issue with our education. That's a cultural issue as well that we can take care of with the bully pulpit. But we're talking about moving people in a direction where if they're invited to be, say for instance, a air traffic controller, they have to be proficient in what they are. They have to know the subject matter backwards and forwards.
They are.
That's right. And so what I'm submitting,
safety standards
and they weed out those who are not competent in doing so. So when we're talking about equity, we're talking about equity based on the fact of your competence, and I'm for that for anyone. I don't care what you believe in, other than the fact that you come to work and you're prepared. But that is the standard.
So would you end the city's universal basic income program?
Well, explain that program to me.
You're familiar with the city's universal basic income program?
No.
There have been some court cases around it. There was at first a $5 million bucket of money that was from the ARPA funds, the federal pandemic funds, and then on top of it, some big billionaires and donors gave private funds, $1 million at first, then maybe more, and that money was used to give out to people in increments of $500 a month. They had to be young parents with kids in St. Louis public schools to qualify, I think at or below a certain income level. So we're talking about working class parents with kids who are here in St. Louis, and they got the money on a card. They could go withdraw the money on an ATM and spend the cash however they wanted, or they could use the card itself. We didn't see all of the data because those people who took the cash withdrawal, that became harder to track. But about 60% of the data, the city tells us that most of that money went to groceries, medicine, gas, necessities of life. And it's something that a guaranteed basic income is something that libertarian economist Milton Friedman has supported, former President Richard Nixon has supported, Dr. King has supported, and you go on down the line. Now it's a different society and a different economic structure, but there are different cities across the country that have kickstarted this guaranteed or universal basic income project. St. Louis is one of them. I'm surprised you don't know about it, but would you end it?
No, well, what I do know about it is that I have studied Milton Friedman. I have an economics degree, so I do understand Milton Friedman's position.
But you're running to lead the city.
Yes, but you asked me and said that I didn't have, wasn't familiar with this.
It was in the city.
Within the city, but I'm submitting on whether or not it works, because we're not responsible for understanding every sparrow's fall. There are all types of programs within the city of St. Louis that I'm sure that the mayor doesn't know about or any others don't know about, because there's so many things. When you look at homelessness, there are millions and millions of different projects throughout the country that can supplement and help the homeless population. But everyone doesn't know about them. What you're trying to do as a mayor is to get those organizations together so that we can serve a particular population.
So you're not prepared to fully answer the question, but just first blush reaction, just to close the issue, yes or no, you like the idea, don't like the idea?
I have to know more about it.
All right. Well, I wish we had more time, Andrew.
Yes.
Thank you, though, for joining us. An interesting conversation. We'll continue to cover this race over the next few weeks. We're back in a moment.